guys, I'm Heather, and I'm the oldest. And she's the emotional one.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, Pollyanna, 1 second. I'm gonna pee.
Hey guys, I'm Ben. I'm the middle child.
And he's the practical one.
Oh, here's I'm pragmatic. I take my favorite song and I'm willing to cut it.
Ew, get off the cross. You're not the only one who did that. I'm Beth, and I'm the baby.
She's also the swing vote.
You had one job. What did you say? What did you say? What came out of your mouth?
Together, we make the Music List Podcast. Welcome back to the Music List Podcast. I am Ben Dial. With me are my sisters, Heather and Beth. And today we're going to take on a topic that I know my sisters are very interested in, and I am too because I'm a country fan, but both of my sisters are lead singers in their own groups. And we're going to take on really, I think, a very challenging topic today.
Not really.
Which are, well, there's going to be I think there's going to be a challenge in the ranking. I think we're going to agree on a lot of the same names. I think the question is going to be, where do they fall? But the topic is the most iconic female country artists.
Yep, I came to box. Let's do it.
And so, real quick, we had a discussion about this before, what the criteria was, and we decided we weren't going to say it was the best vocalist. We said it wasn't necessarily going to be the biggest in sales. We were looking at the most iconic names of country music that were female.
Right.
And so what is an icon is really the question, and that's kind of a subjective idea as much as who's the best voice. So when we talk about what makes an icon, what makes a great icon within any genre, in your opinion?
For me, it's someone who is just woven into the thread of pop culture, who is instantly recognizable either by their voice or their persona or their look, or just who they are. They're a household name. Everybody knows who they are, whether they're a country fan or not. And so I think that most, if not all, of these ladies that will be picked are fit that mold, I think.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect of, did this person change the game of whatever they're involved in some way? So you can look at it almost in two ways for me, and I have some people here who I feel like really did change the direction of country music, but for women in particular. And then there's the aspect of maybe they still were kind of going with what was traditional for the time. However, they just went above and beyond and became so much more than just a country artist. They are a cultural phenomenon. You could look at it both ways, and I have some people on my list who fit both descriptions.
Right, and I think when we talk about an icon, we're talking about somebody that is, I think, recognizable in other genres, that people from other genres recognize the genius or the talent in this individual. And when it comes to an icon in that genre, it's somebody that is also, at the same time, simultaneously recognizable as somebody from that genre.
Right, yeah.
You know, like, I'm going to throw out Taylor Swift right now. Taylor Swift right now, is she country? Is she pop? Right now, she's pop.
Right.
So is she a country icon? She's definitely an icon, I would say. When you look at her album sales, she's instantly recognizable. But I would argue that she's more of a pop icon at this point than she is a country icon. So what I'm looking for these ladies to kind of be considered country icons. You look at them as a country artist first, but somebody that across the spectrum they recognize this is a super talented individual. This is somebody that defines the genre in some kind of a way.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
With that said, we are going to go ahead and get to the draft. And before we do that, I would like you to follow us on Twitter. We have Twitter, The Music List Podcast, and that is at The Music List PC. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, go ahead and do that. The Music List Podcast at The Music List PC. So I know everybody's interested in the draft order, and drafting first is Beth. Drafting second is Heather. And I will be drafting third, and Mom was my witness. I didn't tinker with it at all. That's just kind of the way that it all came about. So, with that said, and I have a feeling y'all are going to argue over number one, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not.
I doubt it. Probably not.
So, Beth, who's your first pick? This is the most iconic female artist of all time.
All right. I believe the most iconic country artist, the most iconic country female artist, however you want to order those words, is the one, the only, the incomparable Miss Dolly Parton.
She's right. Thank you for joining us for this list.
And we're done.
Yeah.
So Ben might disagree is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I'm ready for that.
Well,
I'm ready. That's actually how this whole thing started. Was
this debate?
A debate between me and Ben.
So now it's settled. Thank you.
Well, she is number 2 on my list.
Okay.
I will try to change your mind about number 1.
All right.
But and here's what I'll say about Dolly. When you talk about somebody that's woven into the fabric of our country, at some point, I guess I'll be the first one to say it, she's a national treasure.
Okay. She is.
Right? I mean, I knew when we had this debate, somebody was going to call her a national treasure. I didn't think I would be the first one. I thought it would be the person that drafted her.
Yeah.
But, and she is. I mean, you look at her philanthropy, you look at her crossing over as a songwriter that's not just country hits, but I mean she's an icon. She's a cultural icon,
right?
As much as she is a country music icon.
Yeah. I was Dolly Parton for Halloween in 3rd grade.
You were. We should put that picture on the music list Twitter.
For crying out loud, yeah.
Well, and she was recently inducted. Has she been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet, or is that coming?
She's in this class.
I know but I don't know when that induction is going to be.
And she denied the invitation, and they denied her denial of the invitation.
No, we're not going to allow you to do that.
And then, then once she got the votes, they asked her, well, are you going to deny it? And she said, no, I mean, if they voted and I'm in, she said, I'll accept it, And I thought that was kind of interesting that she was like, I'm not a rock and roll person. I'm a country star.
I think once she found out that there were other non-traditionally rock and roll people that had gone in, she changed her mind.
She did say she wants to now record a rock album, which I am ready for it. Come on, Dolly.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, she's incredible because not only is she a great songwriter, is she a great country artist. She, in addition to that, I mean, you think about she's got like Golden Globe nominations as an actress.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, she is kind of woven herself into the fabric of
she's
America.
Got 2 Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, for her songwriting, but still.
So, I mean, we're going to have the discussion about whether or not she's number 1 because it's a discussion I feel like we need to have. Even though I'm going to get outvoted, I can see that already. But
I mean, I am the swing vote, so if you bring some really good facts.
But I do want to say from the outset, I understand the pick. She is absolutely an icon, no question about it. And not just female icons. I mean, she's one of the most iconic artists.
Well, I mean,
artists.
there's an argument to be made that she is possibly one of the biggest icons, period, in any area of celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, if you start asking people on the street, have you heard of this artist, this artist, this artist, this artist, they're going to have heard of Dolly Parton before, like especially like the 30 and under crowd.
Yeah,
they may not know who Waylon Jennings is.
Yeah,
they may not know.
And a voice that is instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
So it's a solid pick. It's a solid pick for number 1 overall. And I have a feeling I know who's going to be number 2. So Heather, why don't you go ahead and make that choice?
My number 2 is Loretta Lynn.
That's what I thought. Well, why is that?
Well, on the wall of the Country Music Hall of Fame on, I think, the 2nd floor when you go in there, you just went, so you probably saw this. There's a quote from Hank Williams that said, "Country music is 3 chords and the truth." And I think that Loretta Lynn, where she edges out possibly your number 1 pick is that I really feel like she embodied that. She lived it. She picked up Dew brought her home a $13 guitar, and she taught herself to play it, and she wrote about what she knew. And what she knew was being a coal miner's daughter and growing up poor and telling women to stay away from her man. And it did very well for her. But I don't think that Loretta Lynn could have been disingenuous if she tried. So I think that she was just passionate about the music and the life, and that's what she wanted, and she went for it. And to her credit, she has 18 Grammy nominations. She is the most awarded female recording artist. And she's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, of course. She has 9 banned songs, which speaks to her, to her being ahead of her time. Even though she was writing things that were absolutely going on, the public, the censors, whatever, were not ready to hear that at the time on radio. And so she went on 70 albums, and she was the very first CMA Female Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah, and I think everything that you said is the reason that she's number 3 on my list. But yeah. I understand that 1, 2, and 3 for me are like razor's edge close.
Yeah.
Razor's edge close. Yeah. But what I love about Loretta Lynn, and she may be my favorite of the 3, actually, is what you said. I mean, her songs were so authentic, but there was a humor behind a lot of it, too.
Fist City?
Oh, my goodness. Fist City is hilarious.
The best.
It's great, but it's true, right? You ain't woman enough to take my man. I mean, she's undeniably country. Nothing is forced. She is a coal miner's daughter, right. Legit, no question about it. I think she and Dolly have this personality that is so easy to fall in love with as a fan. Yeah. Not just the songs, not just the music, but who they are, make them so easy to like.
And they're so relatable. I think the only thing that really changed about Loretta and Dolly was her clothes. She's just started wearing sparklier dresses, and I think that really these top 3, which I'm sure I know what number 3 is. They're very truthful and relatable.
Yeah. Okay, so my first pick is Patsy Cline.
There you go.
It's and this is the one we've had the knockdown dragouts before, and for me, Patsy Cline really defined the industry for women. There would not be Loretta Lynn without Patsy Cline.
That is true. That is true.
And Patsy Cline is the first woman really to have the guts to tell the men in the industry, this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
She walked up to the Opry management and said, when am I becoming a member? And they said, well, I guess now.
Yeah.
Nobody asked to become a member of the Opry. She didn't ask. She said, when are you going to make me one? Right. Not am I going to become one? When's it going to happen? They said, now. That's power. She really, and this is for somebody that doesn't like the pop influence, she probably, with Owen Bradley, has more to do with the pop influence in country music than even Chet Atkins did, because she's kind of the one that brought in that went total crossover with big hits, Walking After Midnight. I mean, these were crazy. I mean, these were huge hits on the pop charts as well as the country charts. And to me, I think the reason that I have her number 1 is because I think that if you ask people from across the genres, who are the great voices, definable voices, she's kind of like a Sinatra, for the crooners. She's almost like a representative for country music outside of country music. You know, she's kind of like Elvis for rock and roll in terms of that's a voice that could play at the Metropolitan Opera. It's one that could be on at the Opry.
Yeah.
You know, it's one that could be in Madison Square Garden. And so, to me, she transcends country music in the music industry. Now, she's not as out front and center now. Some of it's timing. I mean, you know, she didn't have the opportunities to be out in front of TV as much as Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton and some of the later ones. And the other part of it is we really don't know how successful she ever would have been.
Right. She was only 30.
You know, I mean, and I think she had like 2 years of her recording history taken away because of the automobile accident. So we really don't know how many hits Patsy Cline would have had. Assume it would have been a lot because she was at the peak of her career when she died from the crash. So we can have that discussion, obviously.
It's coming.
But, you know, the first female artist to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And again, a lot of that's timing because she passed away so early. But it'll be a fun conversation. I have a feeling I'm going to get outvoted. But now we're going to go, and I get another pick because we're snaking around. And I'm going to go with Reba.
Oh.
I'm going to go with Reba McEntire. What's interesting is throughout time there's been multiple women known as the Queen of Country.
Right.
Based on their time period. And really, from about the mid-'80s through the mid-'90s, Reba was the queen of country. There's no question about it. I mean, 25 number one hits. That's incredible. Not many people were able to make the transition from 80s Stone Cold country into 90s country. She left a lot of people behind.
Yeah.
Roseanne Cash didn't make it. Linda Ronstadt didn't make it.
Right.
Reba made it, and she made it in spades. She just kept selling albums. She could do a lot of different kinds of music.
75 million records.
Yeah, yeah. And those are confirmed.
Right.
You know, that's not just people saying those are confirmed. She is the second most awarded female artist of all time. She had number one hits in the 80s, the 90s, what do we call them, the aughts, and the 2010s.
Yeah.
She had number one hits in 4 consecutive decades. That's incredible. 51 CMA nominations and 47 ACM nominations. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and she has a monster fan base. And so...
Plus,
and another one of those voices that you instantly. Now I know it can be. It can be. Some people love it. Some people don't love it. But it is without question an iconic voice. You recognize it when you hear it.
No, and I'm one of those people that is usually not a fan of her voice. Now I think that as a person, she is lovely, and I love.
You've met her.
Well, just from what I've seen, what I've seen on Reba. Well, I'm just saying, I just don't, you know.
She does seem very friendly.
She seems very approachable. She seems like a really sweet personality. I am a choir teacher, and so her singing goes against every single, and I guess I hated on her too much until I listened to the first 2 episodes of this podcast, and my voice literally sounds like cheese grits and a Cairo nut pie. So I can't really say much about someone.
I need to process that for a second.
Someone's accent. I mean, she does things with her R's and things that make her sound iconic. I just don't enjoy them, with the obvious exception of Fancy, because
Hey, yeah.
I love it.
And she's been on Broadway. She had a sitcom that ran 6 seasons.
yeah.
She's been in movies.
Well,
She's been in Tremors. She's been in a movie that I'm aware of, but I mean, and at age 54, she was one of the oldest women to have a number 1 single on the country songs chart. So she's not even like defined by her age or anything
she
like
looks
that.
amazing.
She's not letting that limit her at all. She's staying relevant. I love Reba. I know you're not a huge fan. I don't.
Just of her.
I'm not saying she's one of the best voices in
Just of
country.
her diction. That's all.
But I really love
Reba,
her.
if you're listening.
Yeah, Queen Reba. Just know that Beth loves you, and if you ever show up,
Well, and of course,
ignore Heather.
And also, Beth and I were listening to 90s country music when you were listening to Guns N' Roses.
That's true.
Okay,
That's
so,
true.
you know, for us, we saw Reba 2 times an hour on CMT,
Sure,
probably.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, because she always had multiple songs on the top 40 country.
And she had great videos.
And
And
a lot
her-
of times
oh, yeah.
in the
She's a
top
good
10, she would have a couple
story
in the
video,
top
yeah.
10 at one time.
Yeah.
Oh, the Fancy video was great.
And
The Not the
Not the Last One Out
in Georgia.
Georgia. How great is that
Yeah.
video?
You don't like that version, do you?
I
love that
I'm
video.
a fan of the original, but
But
I'm
the
older.
video's great.
The
Yeah,
video's
the video is
great.
great.
And the Why Haven't I Heard From You video is great.
Yeah.
I love that one.
And her vocal on the song "You Lie."
Oh, that's great.
I mean, she has amazing power and control
does.
and range. It's just the R's that get me. That's it. That's it.
But again, you hear her talk, and it's not forced. You know,
No.
one of the things I hate
No.
about a lot of current country music people is that they put twang into their diction
Manufactured.
that then you see them do an interview, and you're like, who is this
Yeah.
person that's singing the song? Because,
Right.
you know, I mean, that's one of the things that, would, particularly with from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, none of it was manufactured.
Yeah.
They talked like that, and that's how they sang.
Yeah.
Reba, you can hear it. She talks the way she sings.
She sure does.
There's no question about it. That's not manufactured. That's not her trying to sound country. She just is
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
She also has a clothing, home decor, jewelry, etc. line, Rockin' R by Reba. And that's a Cracker Barrel. Of course, I can't even say it. I can't say it without laughing. It's a Cracker Barrel exclusive. So if that's not country, I don't know what would say.
So you can get your moon pies, a Beanie Baby, and some Reba McEntire decor along with Grandpa's country breakfast.
It's like I can't breathe. Oh my gosh.
Maybe some molasses to bring home.
Oh shoot. Okay.
All right.
Just thought I'd throw that little tidbit in there.
And, well, I think we ought to get to another pick, is what I think. Who picked second? Heather.
Oh, it's
Right?
back to me. Okay.
Back to Heather.
Okay, I struggled with this a little bit from everything from 5 down because with order. And I'm going to go with Barbara Mandrell. And possibly, you know, if you were born after 1985 probably or so, she's not as much of a fixture, but she owned the late 70s and the 80s. And she had her own TV show, and it had Muppets in it, and it was fantastic.
You love the Muppets. Throw it back to Kokomo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's also a Hall of Famer. Since she's been an Opry member since 1972. She was the first performer to win Entertainer of the Year back to back. So, she's beautiful. I mean, she's stunning, and her sisters were so pretty, and you kind of would pick your favorite Mandrell sister, and
Right.
you would watch their skits, and they'd always have a gospel song at the end. And now she wrote a lot of songs about cheating, which, I mean, it is country music, so, but and
And it wasn't always her man cheating.
no, sometimes it was her. But she, her first single was a cover of "I've Been Loving You Too Long" by Otis Redding. So she kind of established that R&B sound that she put into all of her music. Her country, her brand of country was very soulful. And so I really like it, and she was a big part of my childhood because I watched that show every week. But Earlene was my favorite. But
And
my favorite mandrill, but she's not in the running.
And she was country.
When country wasn't cool.
And that's true. I mean,
she really
and in a lot of ways, she was one of the few legit stars that kind of carried that torch for a really tough time, as far, at least in terms of sales and popularity. I'm gonna tell you, I mean, there was, because you had outlaw country that was super hot, but everything else felt manufactured. It felt formulaic. And then she came along, and she was one of the ones that she was an outlaw country.
Yeah.
But she was able to kind of be different and didn't sound formulaic.
And another thing that made her stand out is the fact that she plays everything. She is an amazing musician. She can play steel guitar. She can play the fiddle. She can, she get up, get there behind the drums, and she just was such an amazing musician and performer. I have seen her perform live, and she actually came down and walked down and sat in the lap of the guy sitting next to me. She is a tiny, tiny individual, but she owns a stage like she is 10 feet tall. She just energy. She's retired now, and she doesn't perform much, but a dynamic performer.
And as an aside, one of the things that I found real interesting at the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Ryman Auditorium, or the Opry, when you see the clothing of some of these people, like one of the things I really didn't know about the Ryman, for example, is how culturally diverse it was and all the different kinds of music that they had at the Ryman. I mean, I kind of think of it as a country place, but it wasn't. Like B.B. King played there, and they had a jacket from B.B. King. B.B. King's big boy.
Yeah.
Big boy.
Yeah.
But you could see that's how big Johnny Cash was. Johnny Cash fit in that. And Barbara Mandrell, man, she's tiny. You know. Dolly, not so tiny in certain places.
Right.
So, but you can kind of see it, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
This is how, because they got them on a mannequin, so you can see just exactly how big they are.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So, Beth, I believe we're back to you. Second round pick.
All right.
Number 6 overall.
So this will probably show my age and the time that I was really devoted to country music and listening to CMT every night when I went to bed and when I woke up in the morning. But Shania Twain is my next pick because she truly, when we talk about somebody who changed the game, she changed the way that women in country music and changed a lot of the way that country music in general was going, because she really brought a lot of pop into it, and she's criticized a lot for that. But the same can be said for somebody like Garth Brooks, who people eventually are like, oh yes, Garth Brooks as a country icon, but when it comes to Shania Twain, they don't see the talent as much, and maybe that's because of the clothes she wore, which was also a part of her iconic status, because she really leaned into, this is what I want to wear, and I don't care if you like it. It's not traditional. Her videos were banned on some stations. She was the only country artist included in that first VH1 Divas concert with Mariah, Celine, Gloria Estefan, Carole King, and Aretha Franklin. So she was also bringing country to the pop audiences with her popularity. She was writing a lot of those songs, and I think she was threatening in some ways, because she was a very strong woman. She was writing what she wanted to write, and it wasn't necessarily, I'm submissive to my husband or whatever. Like she wrote about, being a strong woman. I'm going out, I'm having a good time, and I look good doing it, and that's fine. There's a quote from someone from The Guardian that said she was fancied by the straight boys, she was admired by the straight girls, adored by gay men as a camp icon, and loved by lesbians who read what they wanted into Man, I Feel Like a Woman. So she meant something different to everybody and didn't intend to do that. That wasn't a put on thing. That was just who she was, and she was recording in the way that she wanted to do it. So she redefined what being a country superstar looked, sounded, and behaved like. And she influenced artists in rap, country, R&B, all kinds of genres, musically and with her fashion sense. Harry Styles cites her as a huge influence, especially with fashion. So she is someone who I think really just changed the scene of country music in that time.
I agree. She kind of was in that crop of stunningly beautiful women that came along in that CMT era. She and Faith Hill and Martina McBride, and you know, she was always the sexy one. You know, Faith Hill was the
girl next door.
Yeah, the blonde, you know, and Martina McBride was just this, you know, stunning beauty too. And there were a lot of really attractive women, but Shania Twain, she was set apart in her sex appeal. I think.
She showed her midriff.
She did,
and that was controversial at the time.
Did.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that she's number 6 on my list, which is where she fell here. And you know, I didn't know how that was going to be perceived, honestly, because when we think of, you know, country icons and being country, but here's the thing about Shania Twain. At the end of the day, she sold more albums than Johnny Cash.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
She sold more albums than Alan Jackson. In fact, the only 2 country stars that have ever sold more albums than Shania Twain are Garth Brooks and George Strait.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So no matter who we put on the list today, Shania's going to have sold the most records.
Right.
You know, she is the only female in music history, not country music, in music history to have 3 albums certified diamond.
Yeah.
Not platinum.
Yeah.
Diamond. That is incredible. Incredible. She's won Grammys, ACMs. She is the queen of country pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. She came along. I mean, she had a hard life, but man, where she came along in the timeline was dynamite for her.
And to Beth's point about the criticism, I do criticize her more than I do Garth Brooks because, and I want to kind of blame 3 people: Shania, Faith Hill, and Tim McGraw, because they started doing remixes of their country songs to try to get the pop crossover, and then they just stopped making the remixes. And to me, that was where we really saw the disintegration of traditional country music, is when they said, well, why are we going to make the remix? Let's just make the remix. And so I felt like that had more to do than like Garth Brooks. I mean, because Garth Brooks, the beginning of Garth Brooks was pretty country. I mean, Rodeo and, you know, I mean, that's pretty, Friends in Low Places, that's pretty country.
Well, so was her early stuff.
But she couldn't help but move on into the pop and rock, you know, being married to Mutt Lange. You know, I mean, her stuff is naturally gonna.
When you're getting produced by the same guy that produced AC/DC
and Def Leppard, it's gonna trend that way, and it worked for her. She had the voice for it. She had the look for it, and she did change the game for sure.
But no question. I mean, I think that, you know, if we start talking about iconic country female artists, you know, whether we like the direction that she helped take country music in or not, as an icon, I think all the evidence points that she deserves to be on the list.
Yep.
Beth, I think you get another pick.
All right. Again, I'm sticking with a more modern choice with Carrie Underwood. Not only because she's phenomenal in every way, but she has sold so many records. She also has that NFL Sunday Night Football theme that she did. Her voice is very recognizable. Rolling Stone called her the female vocalist of her generation in any genre. And a lot of her music it's somewhat country pop, but it is definitely, she stays country, and she's true to that audience, even though she has success in mainstream charts. She's right now done a lot of work with, or a few shows with Guns N' Roses. She's performing with them. She's the most awarded artist in the history of the CMT Awards. She's hosted that many, many times. She's just so visible in country music and also just in music as a whole. I think she, even though the success of Kelly Clarkson was great, she is the best music show winner ever. She's definitely the best selling. She's the most successful. And I think between her and Kelly Clarkson, they're kind of, in my opinion, the only two who turned out with legitimate, long-standing careers. Mm-hmm. And she's far surpassed, even though I like Kelly Clarkson maybe more, she's far surpassed what Kelly Clarkson has been able to do recording-wise, as far as her success of her music. She's also released Christmas, gospel albums. She won a Grammy for her gospel album as well. But it's all very rooted in country music. Mm-hmm. She doesn't stray away from that. She always brings it back to, I'm a country artist, but I'm so big you can't contain me, is Carrie Underwood.
No, and if you go to Nashville, her face is plastered.
Yeah. Well, it's
everywhere.
a great face, for sure.
It is a great face. But, I mean, on the walls, they have murals everywhere in Nashville, in the bars, and on the buildings. And, you have these icons like, Dolly and Patsy and Loretta, and she's right up there with them. They paint her into these... So she's woven already into the fabric of country music, for sure. Oh,
and I forgot she was also in that live NBC broadcast of The Sound of Music. She played the lead role.
Yep.
Well, she's a chart and sales dynamo.
Yeah.
I mean, she's had 9 studio albums. 8 of them have gone to number 1, and the one that just released earlier last month, Denim and Rhinestones, I believe is at number 2. So it could end up being a perfect 9 for 9. And it's just hit after hit after hit after hit after hit.
Because
everything goes into the top 10.
Yeah.
Everything she releases goes into the top 10.
Because if we were making a list of best singers, most talented, she very well could top the list as far as vocal ability, strength, power, flexibility, just not your sound necessarily. I mean, she has a traditionally, I don't think that it's a classically trained voice because she was so young when she started, but she just has raw talent and ability.
Well, she could lead a rock band easily.
Sure.
She could easily do a rock band.
She had a hit with a heart song.
She can do just about any genre.
Yeah.
I would say I think Martina still would be number 1 as far as best voice.
Yeah, well, when we do that, podcast, we'll have that argument.
So I would argue that. But yeah, I mean Carrie Underwood. I mean, just goodness gracious, 8 Grammys.
And she's
and
early 30s, mid 30s maybe.
I'm not sure. I think she's probably mid to late 30s. But
so she's got
got a long way to go.
She's got 3 really strong decades left if she wants them.
Yeah, I think maybe she's far down my list. She's number 6 on my list as a whole. And maybe not, I'll admit it, maybe not top 5 material just yet, but
she will
over
be.
time. Yeah, I think she could eclipse even maybe 1 or 2 of these people, depending on what she does in the future.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what she needs to do. She needs to do the Johnny Cash thing, which is she needs to have her own television show. And she's got a great personality. She's easy to look at. So she could definitely host a great show. Yeah. Kind of take some time off from releasing.
She has hosted award shows.
Kind of take
many times.
Take some time off from the studio, from doing major studio releases, maybe do a couple of compilation things with people, and then come back with a return album.
Yeah.
And just blow the doors off of it.
She's done all of this and had kids.
Yeah, and a solid marriage. No trouble that's been in the news anyway. Not that we know of.
So, yeah.
All right. Heather, your last pick. This is round 3. This will be pick 8, I believe.
Yeah, I'm struggling with these next 2, but I'm just going to make it a game time call and go with Tammy.
Yep.
I mean, she's she doesn't have as many hits as, Dolly, Loretta, Patsy. But her presence in the genre, in the fabric we keep talking about of country music, her partnership, her marriage with, another country icon. People love a good wedding and marriage and divorce story, and
I was like, was it that good?
it wasn't that good, but and I think from country music fans, she gets love for her voice and her ability, but I think in general she doesn't really get recognized enough for the quality of her voice. She has or had pipes that she could really, really do some vocal gymnastics and delivery, just honest delivery. And so, I don't think you could have a list of iconic country females without Tammy Wynette.
Yeah, she was number 5 on my list, so I mean that was one that was going to be my pick. But she, she had a 10 or 11 year run. Mm-hmm. Between like 66 and 76 or so, where, 24 top 10 hits, 17 topped the country charts. She had some crossover hits. Stand By Your Man was a big crossover hit. Yeah. DIVORCE, Ways to Love a Man. I mean, 3-time CMA Female Vocalist of the Year.
Yeah.
2 Grammys, 16 nominations. That's a lot of nominations for a female. That's a lot of Grammy nominations for a female country artist in general, because they don't nominate country people for stuff outside of their genre very often. So
and I feel like she was maybe the Faith Hill or the Shania Twain of her generation, of her time. She was this beauty that was very glamorous and coiffed and done up. So, country females bring their A game when it comes to presenting. So, and she certainly did that.
Well, so this is the last pick, and here's the amazing thing. I have a list of 9. 8 of them were selected. I've only got one person left on my list of my top 9.
Okay.
And it's Miranda Lambert.
Oh.
So, and
Interesting. Yeah.
there was an 8-year stretch where she won CMA Female Vocalist of the Year 7 times.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's incredible. First 7 albums went straight to number 1. 6 of them hit the top 10 for all genres, which is really hard for country albums to do.
Yeah.
She's charted 10 number 1s. She doesn't have the same crossover appeal as Carrie Underwood, or even, we mentioned like Patsy Cline and Shania Twain. She doesn't have that big, because she is a little bit more traditional.
She's
than
country,
the other. And you know what? And she gets criticized for being too pop by a lot of people.
Really?
So, I mean, I think we've gotten to a point to where we have a lot of country music fans that are so just squeeze. They want to squeeze every little bit of pop out if they sense anything pop at all. And here's the thing with that. You're gonna have to throw out everything that Chet Atkins did. Mm-hmm. You got to throw out all the Patsy Cline. Mm-hmm.
Elvis.
You got to throw out. Well, yeah, I mean, because with Elvis brought in the R&B. Mm-hmm. He brought in. He kind of invented rock and roll, really. He and Sam Phillips. I just read a great book about that. I know we're not one to do book reviews, but she is I find it interesting though that her album sales are what they are, and she's staying more country than a lot of the other artists. And so you would think Nashville might get a clue and say, maybe there's something there. But her career hasn't lasted as long. She's kind of new, along with some of the other ones. I guess her career's about 12 years old, dozen years she's been really active. And she doesn't. I don't understand how you can have that many hits and be that well received with the awards. She doesn't have a ton of number one hits. She's got a lot of top tens, but she hasn't topped the charts as often as some of the other ones. And so she was number 8 on my list overall. But I think that she's got the country bona fides, and within the country community, I think she is very well received.
Yeah.
More so than maybe some of the other ones because they're a little bit more pop. And there is some backlash right now in the country music fan base towards people that they feel are integrating too much outside influence into it. But I was just stunned at 7 out of 8 years to get female vocalist of the year. That's owning a decade like nobody has ever owned a decade.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's where I am with Miranda Lambert.
Okay. Yeah. Who else did you have?
That was it. That was my top 9.
Oh.
I mean,
wow.
the 9 that we mentioned, I had some honorable mentions like, Kitty Wells. But, I mean, a lot of people are,
Yeah.
if you go and you ask 100 people on the street today,
Right.
name a Kitty Wells song, they're going to kind of look at you funny. Who's Kitty Wells?
Right.
But, my top 9 is pretty well the 9 that we had. Like we said, if we were going to talk about the best voices,
Yeah. Yeah.
Martina McBride would have been
Sure.
number 1 for me probably. But, in terms of being iconic, we hit my top 9 exactly.
How many do you have left? Yeah.
I had 2 left. Really, it was hard for me to get to 9 because I was like, really past a certain point, I don't care anymore because I know who I think the top 5 should be pretty strongly. But I had Tanya Tucker.
Yep. I had
and I also
7.
had kind of my 9th spot was just kind of a nod to someone who I think could be an icon in the future, Casey Musgraves, because
Oh, yeah.
she's still a country artist, but she's really pushing the boundaries of country content, lyrical content in country music. She's talking about smoking weed. She's talking about love whoever you want to love, which is not received super well.
Not
but
hitting that
she's still,
traditional country
Not at
audience.
all. She's really bringing a new audience to country music in some ways, but she's also leaning kind of pop. So I'm not sure exactly where she's going to end up, but because she's pretty young in her career. But her Same Trailer Different Park album is a great album. So if you haven't heard that one, go listen to that if you like country music because it's great. But that's what I had.
I had Tanya Tucker and June Carter Cash
Oh,
and Emmylou Harris.
okay.
But I show my age, with my list. But and I probably tend to leave out some of the more modern artists because I forget that I've lived a lot of life since since these people have come through. So they're still kids to me.
And one of the things I think it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that it really took a while for country music to embrace a lot of female artists in their own right.
Right.
I mean, you think, where would we have Tammy Wynette without George Jones?
Right.
I mean, and so...
And on some level, Miranda Lambert, she had her marriage to, what's his name?
Blake
I don't
Shelton.
like him, so I don't remember him.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, Mom's offended that I don't like him. But, I mean, their relationship was pretty iconic in its own right, I guess. They were kind of a sweethearts of Nashville kind of thing. She's great. I wouldn't take anything away from her, but...
Right. And think about like somebody like Roseanne Cash, right? Roseanne is obviously Johnny's daughter, and she was married to Rodney Kroll. So, I mean, it's like... What's interesting is today, though, there are a ton of female artists on the airwaves in country music, and so you can kind of see how things have changed. And I feel like it changed more slowly in country music than it did in other genres. Because like Motown embraced women right out of the gate.
Right.
I mean, they were, right behind them. So that's something that I kind of didn't notice until I started
Right.
really researching this for this particular podcast episode. So now we've got to go from 9 to 5.
Working 9 to 5.
They didn't tell me. They did not tell me that was coming, but I guess since Dolly's on the list, we had to do something special for 9 to 5.
We may do it every time
time.
for 9 to 5.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So let's.
He's shaking.
Okay. Can we at least agree that Dolly, Loretta, and Patsy are 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
In some order.
In some, not
yes.
necessarily in that order,
yes, absolutely.
but there's those 3. That's the top tier, and then.
Yeah.
So do we want to try to figure out who's 4 and 5 first?
Probably.
Okay. So we're just not. Yeah, we're not going to cut. We're just going to do it from those.
Well, I think there are some that we just.
I mean, I feel like we all have Reba in the
Reba,
top 5?
We did.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I
to
had
say,
Reba number 4.
I did too.
I did too.
Okay.
Well, how about that?
Well, there you go. Done.
So
And
really,
then-
1 through 4
Are
are.
done.
And here's what's
decided.
interesting for me, and this is where you two can try to maybe figure out, and you can convince me. Maybe I can be the swing vote. Because I had Tammy Wynette 5 and Shania 6.
Let's go.
And
I'm
so
ready.
you two, I think actually the way that the draft went down is Shania went 5 and Tammy Wynette went 6. I believe that's the way that the draft went. So
You know, as far
I had Tammy Wynette 5, Shania 6, and Carrie Underwood 7.
I'll concede that because we're gonna fight about the other stuff.
Yeah,
That
Well, and I'm right anyway.
that just on sheer numbers and popularity, Shania Twain has
yeah.
outperformed, outsold Tammy Wynette, even though she is.
So you think she's more iconic? I mean, I know she's got the numbers. There was no question. She's got more numbers than
I
Alan
think-
Jackson, but I would say that Alan Jackson's a bigger country
I
icon than
think
Shania
20
Twain.
years down the road, I think 20 years down the road, we're going to look back with some more time behind it, and I think that Shania will have eclipsed.
And she was certainly more influential
Yeah.
in the direction of country
So
music.
I'll
There's
go
no
with
question
that.
about that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really just trying to save time so
Well,
we don't, because we're going to fight about the
So
other stuff.
Okay.
I think we can easily say though that we can say Reba is 4, Shania is 5.
Okay.
And then we're
Okay.
arguing about 1, 2, and 3.
We are.
Yep.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's see.
Because I had Patsy 1, Dolly 2, and Loretta 3.
Okay, I'll go with Loretta being 3.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
And,
Because
and Loretta,
That's where I had her as well.
I mean, it's really, for me, a
She was
coin
2 for me,
toss
but-
on Dolly and Loretta. I mean, I could
What?
easily, to be 2 or 3?
Do you know we're talking about iconic?
Yes.
Okay.
okay. Well, it's going to come down to Dolly and Patsy, so let's decide.
Oh, yeah, it's already written down.
So let's just decide.
So we're
let's do
gonna
this.
say Loretta's number 3.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd almost talked myself into Loretta being number 2.
With who at number 3?
Dolly.
The lies
Oh
you
my
tell.
gosh! What? No. No.
What's an icon
No.
to you?
We had this discussion at the
I
beginning
know,
of
but
the
I'm trying to
podcast.
see what is your logic.
Okay. Okay. Listen.
Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter because we're trying to get one.
Dolly is not just a country music icon.
Right.
She is a feminist icon.
I agree.
She is a philanthropy icon.
I agree.
She is an LGBT icon.
Uh-huh.
She is a pop culture, just a persona icon. She's instantly recognizable in every sense. Vocally, just
So what's the name of
visually.
what's the name of this episode though?
most iconic.
country female artist.
Okay, so it's their icon as a country artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, not as a country
Oh.
artist. They are a country artist, and they are the most iconic.
I feel like we may not have defined the episode.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, does Patsy Cline have a species of lichen named after her?
No, she does
No, she
not.
doesn't. Has Patsy Cline turned down the Presidential Medal of Freedom not once but twice, good sir? No, she has not.
Patsy Cline was from Virginia, and
Which is a southern state.
yeah, sort
There's
of.
no yeah, sort of.
I mean,
it's
it
a southern
definitely
state.
is.
Okay, but she's not down there in the holler of Tennessee, writing those songs, growing up with her coat of many colors.
You realize, oh, wait a minute, because we're not going to argue about Loretta's bona fides, and she was literally in West Virginia, which is no further south than Virginia.
I thought she was from Kentucky.
I'm pretty sure she's from I'm pretty sure Loretta's from West Virginia.
I don't know, but the point is that
I don't think Kentucky's any further south than Virginia either.
This is not a geography lesson. I go back to
because I would win.
Chords and the truth. Patsy's mom was making her some little rodeo outfits and whatever. She was not brought up in that southern or the country culture. And
you mean poor country?
And
you're talking. She wasn't brought up poor. That's what you.
Well,
mean.
she was brought up poor. She was brought up.
Well, then what
poor.
are you talking about?
But she, in that sense of writing her own material.
Loretta Lynn was from Kentucky, by the way.
Thank you. But writing her own material. She wrote maybe 2 of her own songs, and
I'm not arguing at all the songwriting.
But if again, 3 chords and the truth. So they're singing what they know, what they lived. So they lived that country life that they were singing about.
Well, I don't debate any of that. I mean, I don't argue with any of that. But
okay,
I think
so Dolly's number 1.
But what I'm saying is that if you ask people outside of the genre, people that are fans of other genres, particularly people that I would say have some musical appreciation for music itself, the voice that they point to is almost always Patsy Cline. It's almost always.
She's a great voice, but I think that if she had come along today, she would have 100% been a pop singer. If, accounting for the sound that she had, the type of music that she had, she wouldn't have been a country icon. I think she would have been more of a pop singer.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think Loretta would have made it today?
Today?
Because country is so pop. I mean, so you have to take into account when they were. You have to take into account the environment of the time. And I think it was so difficult for women of that time. What she accomplished for that time period is amazing. Yeah. She's the one who really tugged Loretta in.
She did.
There's no question. Loretta doesn't get on the Opry without Patsy Cline. So,
okay, but that doesn't have anything to do with how influential. I mean, with how influential. Wrong word. It has a lot to do with how influential she is, but not iconic in her own right, in her own space in the world, in the genre. Dolly is more country than Patsy.
Yes, I agree. She's more country. I'm not debating that she's more, but we're talking about who is the most iconic. And I think that outside of Dolly is an iconic. She is more iconic as a figure. No question. Than
as a musician?
But I would say as a musician, as a country singer, I think Patsy Cline is number 1.
As a musician, you have to also consider being a
Dolly's
songwriter.
A better musician. No, Dolly's a better musician. Patsy Cline didn't play an instrument.
Okay, well,
she got up there and she sang songs.
You just said
we're not talking
it was as a musician.
We're not talking about who's the best musician. If we're talking about the best, musician.
What did you just say?
I said we're talking about most iconic as a musician. That's not to be the best.
Are we?
The best are not always the most iconic.
I think she's both. That's what I'm saying.
You think Dolly Parton's the best musician in country music?
Of those 2?
Oh, of those 2, yes.
Yeah. Well, then why is she not number 1?
I would say number 1 as a singer. I think Patsy's better.
No, I disagree. Boop. I disagree.
I think she's a better singer.
I think
but that's not the question we're
Dolly's got a more
here.
Unique voice.
Yes,
she's got
the vibrato.
She's got more
instantly.
range. She's got more flexibility.
That's true. But it's not as pleasant.
Well, that's
the things that Patsy Cline can
that's also
do,
up for debate, but-
the things that Patsy Cline can do with her voice, the slides and stop dead on. I mean,
she is skilled.
She can go an octave and a half and land dead on.
She is skilled, but here's the thing. Like, like she is great with the delivery, and she is technically skilled with her delivery. But let's go Amber Heard on this. Johnny Depp is a fantastic actor, but I don't believe that he really has scissors for fingers, and so I don't really believe Patsy when she delivers her songs. I believe Dolly when she delivers her songs. I think she's a better singer. I think she's a better musician. I think she's the most
Lordy
iconic.
Jesus.
Okay, so I guess we're circular arguments now. So
Yeah.
we'll just put a vote to it. I guess y'all are going Dolly, number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So where are we at number 2? Is it Loretta or Patsy?
Oh, it's Patsy.
Okay.
I'll concede that.
So the top 5.
All right, so in order. Number 1, Dolly Parton. Number 2, Patsy Cline. 3, Loretta Lynn. 4, Reba McEntire. And 5, Shania Twain.
There you have it. The debate will continue after the show. Remember to follow us on Twitter, and like, follow, share, all of those great things. If you see us and you like the podcast, thanks for following. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Music List podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
She almost had it.